Once upon a time, there was a young boy named Abram who lived in the town of Ur-Chasdim, Ur of the Chaldees. His father, Terah, was an idol maker. He carved statues and sold them to people to worship. One day, Terah had to go on a business trip, so he put Abram in charge of the store. A person would come into the shop to buy the idols, and Abram, the curious child that he was, asked the customer, "How old are you?" The person replied, 70 years old. Abraham would exclaim, "Isn't it sad that someone your age would bow down to an object that was only made today?" Once, a woman with a bowl of flour came and said, "Offer this to the gods." Abram agreed, and when the woman left, he took a stick, smashed all the idols save the largest one. He then placed the stick in the hand of that idol. When Terah returned and saw the smashed statues, he was shocked and cried, "Who did this?" Abram innocently responded, "How can I hide anything from you, Father? A woman came in with a bowl of flour and told me to offer it to the gods. I brought it in front of them, and each one said, 'I'm going to eat first.' Then the biggest idol got up, took the stick, and smashed all the others." "Are you making fun of me?" asked Terah. "You know that those idols can do nothing." Abram responded, "Listen with your ears and what your mouth is saying. You say the idols can do nothing. Why, Father, should we worship idols, false gods that they are, when there is only the one?" This story is meant to teach us how Abram, later known as Abraham, was devoted to the idea of one God, even as a child. This story, however, does not appear in the Torah. It is an example of what is called Midrash. The word Midrash comes from the Hebrew for searching out. It is the process of interpreting Jewish biblical texts. There is no one book called the Midrash. It is a collection of stories and traditions that appear in many different sources, such as the Talmud, but also from other places like Midrash Rabbah or Pirkei de Rebbe Eliezer, to name just a few. These traditional sources were written between 2200 and 1000 years ago. There are two types of Midrash. One type is called Midrash Halacha and is concerned with laws and Jewish practice. A great example is the text from Deuteronomy that makes up the V'ahavta, immediately following the Shema. "These words that I command you today shall be on your heart. You shall teach them repeatedly to your children, and speak of them when you sit in your home, when you go on your way, when you lie down, and when you get up. You shall bind them for a sign on your hand, and they shall be frontlets between your eyes. You shall write them on the doorpost of your house and on your gates." The rabbinic explanation that can be found in the Talmud and in other midrashic source called Sifrei is that these lines refer to the mezuzah that is placed on our doorposts and tefillin, which we wrap around our foreheads and arms. This type of interpretation is an example of Midrash Halacha. The second type of Midrash, Midrash Agadah, refers to narrative interpretation. The word Agadah comes from the Hebrew to tell. This type of Midrash fills in the blanks. When it comes to trying to understand the stories in the Torah, Barry Holtz, in his book Back to the Sources, describes Agadah this way. Perhaps the easiest way to understand Agadah is to think of it as virtually all the non-legal literature of Rabbinic Judaism. It is, one might say, a kind of imaginative literature. An example of this type of midrash is the story of Abram and the idols, a version of which can be found in the midrashic source called Genesis Rabbah. Another more modern example is what's called bibliodrama, where we role-play events in the Tanakh. A great source for this type of interpretation is the classic book Sedrosines by Stan Biner. Midrash in the 21st century can also take the form of what's called digital storytelling, where a tale is told using modern technology, such as the online video resource called Godcast.com. So, what's Midrash? It's reading between the lines. It's finding meaning in the text. It is a way of enriching the words of Torah. With our students, sometimes having them retell a biblical story or explain a piece of Jewish law in their own words can help them create personal connections.